Hello and welcome to this episode of Minnesota Drummer. This week's episode, I have Mario Dawson on. How you doing?
I'm good. Like I said, just just trying to stay busy and trying to maintain an altitude that I was in. So it's takes some different maneuvering, but we're staying up there. So that's pretty good. If I can stay busy.
Fantastic. Well, like a typical show and everything I like to do, I like to go back in your history a little bit. You grew up in Chicago. What brought you to Minnesota?
Well, I mean, after college, after school, I went back to Chicago, and my mom had already been here, so I came with a group. Here to tour, and we had actually played First Avenue, and I had ran into Jelly Bean Johnson, which he's like my uncle, in the game, and so he was like, boy, you need to be here in Minnesota. And I was like, Minnesota? Like, why Minnesota? I'm good in Chicago. And so he was like, if you move to Minnesota, trust me, you will be one of the guys. You're not just going to be one of, the chosen, but you actually be, one of the A+ guys. And I said, man, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And so like months, I think a few months of talking back and forth, and then talking back and forth with my family, my mom being here and things like that. I was just like, let me make that move. And so so I made the move, and it just, he was right. Like literally within, I want to say, I was playing in the church already, because my family's in the church. And so I already had kind of a substantial church gig already. But as far as like playing on the nightclub scene or on the club scene, or just even anything at that point, it happened very quickly, like very quickly. Like, wow. At one point, it was when I moved here, it was the names that you were seeing as far as the black musician or black drummers was Michael Bland, Stokely, Stokely Williams. And so when I moved here, it was like, oh, there's another one of them, wait a minute, where's this little dude coming? There's this little guy coming from. And so the names that were around now at that point was Michael Bland, Stokely, and then this young dude, Mario Dawson. So that's kind of how it happened. So it was really cool. It just came. I just got very busy as soon as I got here. So
okay. Well, who were some of the first artists you started playing with when you got here?
Mick Sterling was one that called me. Bobby Vandale helped me out a lot. Which he's a staple here, and so Bobby Vandale really was like, I went and sat in with him at the time Bunkers with the TC Jammers, and he was like, oh my God. It's like, and so he, like, when he couldn't do a gig with, Mick Sterling and the Stud Brothers, I was subbing for him. Same thing with Michael. Michael really helped me out a lot and with the combo and things like that. And then I started playing with, the Petersons. I started doing, some jazz hits with Jeannie, Mama Peterson, and then, Petersons, every last one of them, actually, it's a lot of them, Billy Peterson, the late Billy Peterson. I was doing a lot of jazz gigs with him, and and to be with those guys at a younger age, and they're the cream of the crop. It taught me so much. So that's kind of who going back, man. You're aging me, man. It's like it was 22 years ago.
Oh, come on! It was just the late '90s. Come on now. No. Not that long ago. So I keep on telling myself. So what's your relationship with Jelly Bean? Because I'm a big fan of Jelly Bean, as so many of us. There you go.
God dang it.
I got you again.
Oh.
So your relationship with Jelly Bean, how far does that really go back?
I met Uncle Bean as we all call him. I met Uncle Bean. I was a teenager. I was probably 17, when
Okay.
I met him, for the first time. I've been calling him Uncle Bean since then. But I was 17. He had come to Chicago for, I think a gig. And I think the band that I was playing for in Chicago opened up for the time. And so,
Okay.
And he was like, boy, you a he called me a gunslinger at the time. So, if you could hear his voice, you was a gunslinger, nephew, you was a gunslinger. So, we developed a relationship from there. And then I would call him, when I got in town to Minneapolis to, see my grandmother at the time.
Okay.
And he would, if he was in town, I would go see him play somewhere or, something like that. But, it's been, since I was 17.
Wow.
I'm aging myself, man. I'm aging.
So, like, there's so many Chicago drummers here, though. So many Chicago transplants. Why do you think that is?
We would hear about Minneapolis. We would hear about Minneapolis as far as the funk scene. So this was like the closest place where, a lot of us, could come and kind of just divert into, playing, 100%, and so
Okay.
where Chicago, which is so, and this is such a small community, where Chicago is just like, you have the jazz community, you have the blues community, you have the R&B community, you have the gospel community, you have, the theater guys, you have, so to have a gig where I was living in, the suburbs, you would travel almost an hour and a half away, trying to
really?
get to the gig, so if I was on the south side or south suburbs, traveling to Evanston, that's almost an hour and some change away. So, it was the commute for Chicago for me, even trying to move back. I just kind of grew out of that. And so Minneapolis was like a better place for me as far as commuting. I just, it would almost be like guys in New York, I seen guys in New York have to take the train and they got their full drum set, it was like, man, or taking a cab with the drums, and so like here it's just so accessible, Bunkers, I live, living downtown or whatever, Bunkers is 10 minutes from me, I could be there, 8:50 and I'm like there at 9:00, so it just, I leave my house at 8:50 and just be there about 9:00. So it just was very accessible, and very easy and very, and then the musical community that's here is bar none. It's like one of the top in the country, so why not? I told a lot of guys that, that I wanted to maybe move back to Chicago. They were like, for what? Why would you move back to Chicago and you're that guy in Minneapolis? So
right.
So it was just a very solid decision, and I believe that the career that I've chosen to make here is really been an everlasting one. So
No, it's fantastic. I'm glad you're here.
yeah,
It's great. So can you talk a little bit about, just for fun, since you're a little bit older growing up in Chicago, what was the rumors like in Chicago about Minneapolis and our scene here, our music scene?
Like I said, it was we were definitely like, given that I grew up in the gospel scene, we're number one as far as like, Chicago gospel music. So there was no, we're the cream of the crop. So there was no talk of Minneapolis gospel. There was no talk of, the only thing we heard about was Prince. You know, as far as blues, even blues, you know, there was no talk of blues artists in Minnesota. You know, most of the blues artists that moved, you know, that was here was from Chicago. So, so, you know, whatever blues scene that there was here, um, which is one, is pretty huge now, but at the same time, um, back then it was not. You know, we came here to Famous Dave's. We came here to, at the time, Wilewski's.
Okay.
And you know, it just was not a talked about scene. We talked about Mint Condition. We talked about Prince. We talked about the time. We talked about, you know, Maserati and things like that. It was just a heavy funk scene that I didn't really even know about. I didn't really know about until I moved here. You know, I knew about it, but I didn't know. Like I didn't understand until I moved here. So that was you know, so Chicago, it just was not a, you know, Minneapolis just was not a open scene that we talked about. It was just like, oh, well, we got to go to Minneapolis. No. Most of the guys that moved out of Chicago, they either went to LA, they went to New York, or myself went to Atlanta. You know, so just, you know, and for college. But other than that, nah, it wasn't a scene that we even talked about like that.
Well, we have so many amazing drummers in this town that are in the gospel scene. You play for a church. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the players in this town that you think stand out as gospel drummers, funk drummers?
There's so many. If I start naming people,
I don't want to get you in trouble either.
Derek Ballard is one of my favorite drummers in the city. He's one of my brothers. He's just one of my favorite drummers in the city. I love to listen to him. Sean Smitty Smith is another one that's great. Barry Alexander, Eric Johnson, and the younger drummers. One that came up under me, Brandon Johnson, is just phenomenal. You know, sounds like me, but he's just. You could tell he has the gospel influence from you know, him coming up under me. Demetrius Holmes just moved back here from Chicago, and wow, I'm like, okay, how long am I gonna be playing? like how much more of this hip hop I got left?
No, you can't say that.
These guys are coming with some heat. You know, and I can say that because they were saying that about me. So it just, you know, it's really cool to see this and to experience these guys that are coming up after me, and they're like, whew, they're really, really awesome drummers to watch and listen to.
Did you hear about the Noise for Floyd event that took place in Minneapolis?
I did. I was there for that. And
I was blown away. I didn't see the first one. I went to the second one, filmed that one.
Sure.
And I was completely blown away by the level of talent that's in this town. What do you contribute such a strong drumming history or drumming talent in the gospel community? What makes that?
You know, there's so many levels to that. That's a loaded that's a loaded question.
Okay.
Very loaded question, because there's just a discipline, and there's a range to gospel music that most come out of. Like, so where I started in gospel music is here. Now gospel music is here. Like, it's just so much. It's such a large range. Where, you know, we were blessed to, you know, follow. I came up under, like, watching, you know, if you talk about watching whoever, you know, I came up under watching a bunch of drummers that that were older than me, Oscar Seaton, so many other drummers that I'm starting to forget their names, Malcolm Banks, that they had such a heavy heavy foot, and their chops were just amazing, you know. And so because they were playing not only in the gospel side, but they were also playing in clubs at the same time. So you know, we had a place called Jazz Bulls that all the drummers used to go to, and man, you had solo. You had to, you know, work your craft. And so, but at church, you know, the same thing. It was like you worked your craft at church, and it brought a level of artistry in that. So you just made yourself big in those situations, and it just was very very inspiring to see at that time. Now it's like they've carried it on to the next level, and now these guys are playing triple Rademy cues, and man, it's like they're playing, you know, playing behind their backs, and all kind of stuff is happening. So it's just, you know, and then some of these guys are, you know, coming from core, so a lot of the chops are very clean and very precise and very adamant, and they mean it. And I'm like, my God, how did you even squeeze that into that one? and so, you know, it's like I said, it's a blessing to see, you know, some of this, and to enjoy these guys, these younger guys that are coming out of the gospel music industry or the gospel music side into the other side of the coin. You know, like I said, Brandon Johnson is one of my one of my guys that I've mentored, and to see him grow into, you know, not just a drummer but a producer, you know, just like myself, and, you know, to see him grow. And Smitty, same thing, to see him grow into, you know, this unbelievable producer with a great ear. You know, it's just, you know, that's exactly what I came from. You know, I'm going higher. I mean, I'm here, but these guys are going above me like now. So it's really cool to see.
Well, hey, I want to have people have an opportunity to see you play. You were kind enough to send me a couple links for a couple of your solos. I'll play your first solo. And then when we come back, let's talk a little bit about some of your earlier influences.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome.
One of our fellow Minnesota drummers needs our help. Eric Ballard's daughter, Emery, has been diagnosed with leukemia. Emery was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia on August 17th of this year. Emery's current treatment plan consists of her receiving aggressive chemotherapy and then a bone marrow transplant. Eric and his family ask that we follow Emery's progress on their designated Facebook page. A link to the Facebook page will be in the show notes of this episode, and they ask that we keep Emery in our prayers that God will heal their daughter. And this is a point where we can help. Any size donation that we can make will help with monthly expenses and medical bills. I ask you to consider any size donation, even a small amount will help. In these times, I know money's tight. Any size donation is valuable. This is crowdfunding at its best. A link to where you can donate will be on the show notes of this episode. Eric Ballard is a prominent drummer in the Minnesota drumming scene. Please consider donating today.
All right, welcome back. First, I got to say, please consider donating to Eric's daughter. I just found out about this, and as a parent, I can only imagine the pain that they're going through. And, I've seen people donate $15, $20, $25, and that's the whole point is that, what a number of people doing this, a little bit goes a long way. So just please consider it.
Absolutely.
So we got such a fantastic drumming community, so we just got to get rallied behind each other.
I texted with them, I think it was the other day, and we had a really good conversation. He is definitely in great spirits right now, and I could not, dealing with loss myself this year, I could not imagine going through what he's going through at this point. So yeah, absolutely, donate to the Bro Girls, donate to Jojo.
And the links will be on the show notes of this episode.
Absolutely.
So anyways, getting back to you and your solo, I just want to say I love your solo. I've seen a couple of your solos now, and you really enjoy the process of it. How do you go about crafting a solo like that?
You know what? I'm the most nervous. You may not seem that way, but I'm nervous, so I really don't, especially with Bernard, he leaves me, I'm by myself, and.
But you're the guy.
I know, and to entertain for, 2 to 3, or, he gives me leeway to, be the guy at that moment. To entertain for 4 to 5 minutes is gut wrenching. So I just, I close my eyes and I just go. And so that's kind of how I've always I've tried to opening my eyes a little bit more lately when I'm soloing, just because, I want to, create with the crowd, with, the people that I'm in front of. But I just go for broke at when it's my turn to solo. It's nothing that I've worked out, Of course, I've practiced all the chops that I can,
Right.
But as far as what I work out in the solo, what's going to happen at the next minute, I'm going to be this guy at this minute. When he comes up there, or when whoever comes up there, George or whoever it is that's next, I'm like, hurry up.
Well, you can't tell by the way you play. It's just fantastic. No, just out of interest, did you have progressive music background or interest when you were younger?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't have a teacher. I had one teacher, and two. Actually, I should say two. I was in band when I was younger. Mr. Carnegie might be watching this. Joe Carnegie, he was an amazing. He's an amazing pillar in my life. I tried to play the trombone at one point. You may be on this and you may remember this, but I tried to play the trombone, and I couldn't grasp it, man. I was playing around, but he took my trombone. He was like, go back on the drums. Get back on the drums. That's your gift, man. That's your gift.
Yeah.
So I went back on the drums, and like I said, he was a pillar in my life. But as far as a drum teacher, I had another guy that I went to, and basically 2 weeks, and I was probably 11. 2 weeks after Melody Mart was the place that my mom had sent me to, and he said he doesn't need drum lessons. He's better than I am. So yeah, so you're wasting you're wasting your money with this guy. He's gonna grow into whatever he needs to grow into. I already see him. He's gifted, and things like that. And he gave me the beginning of sight reading, just the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning stages, which I'm grateful for, because I use that I use that now. So
How does that benefit you, and how often do you use sight reading?
rare nowadays. If I've gotten a few sessions that they've come to me and given me some charts, but other than that, like, they're not even drum charts. They're actually just like a horn chart, or something like that. But I didn't learn that then. I learned that actually from a guy that I talk about a lot. That he actually passed away this year, Kahari Parker, which he's one of my best friends, and he brought me my first like stick control book, and brought me because he was showing up to church. We were all at in church together, and he came in, and like they had a horn section, and like he comes to church with a horn section, and they used to do anthems at the church, and so it made sense that they had charts and things like that. But he would read it down, and like I'm like, how in the world are you doing that? So he like literally gave me my first stick control book, and like kind of when we'd get together, he if I had questions or whatever, we didn't have a cell phone back then, so we'd have to spend the night at each other's houses, at 15. So we talk about whatever, and he was a guy that was in core, so he kind of showed me the ins and outs of sight reading and chart reading and things like that. So it's, but other than that, I don't really use it too much anymore.
Well, you mentioned stick control, and a lot of people, think they have to go through some basic fundamentals of drumming. How did stick control benefit you? Did it help you at all or not?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah. That book took me through 5-stroke rolls, inverted fives, 6 strokes. I learned my first paradiddle through stick control. Alternate fives. I think I said alternate fives. Alternate paradiddles, flam taps, flamadiddles. I mean, just it took me through every single exercise that I actually do at this point. Trying to apply it to the drum set, and so double strokes is I call them mama daddies, but
I heard that from a lot of people. That's cool.
Yeah, I mama daddies. That was that's what the term was, or is. But I learned that from stick control, and so that book was my saving grace, and then trying to apply it to drums instead of trying to apply it just to a pad, pat, just and applying it to drums, that book there helped me out quite a bit. So,
if somebody's struggling with transitioning rudiments to a drum kit, what are your recommendations for that as a teacher?
As like just sitting down slowly, trying to build a repertoire, as far as like even for instance, a 6-stroke roll, trying to hammer out the accents in that. So if a 6-stroke roll is go, so that's 6 strokes. You just trying to take what you are doing from that pad or that snare drum and just applying it to the drums to make it to where it sounds actually something in a groove, so just trying to make it sound good. That's my all time thing. If I can make it sound good, I'm good. I'm good. If I can make it sound good and make it fit, I'm good. So that's just about it. Taking what that you do on a pad or do on a snare drum and just working your way around the kit,
Okay. So I want to transition now into talking about some of your earliest influences. I love this part. Can you tell me about some of your earlier influences? I can't talk, dude. Sorry. Tripping over my own words. Okay. Can you tell me about some of your earliest influences of players?
Chicago drummers. I'll back up just a little bit. So a lot of drummers, I mean, Chicago just had the most gifted drummers, and still do. Mm-hmm. They have the most gifted drummers that I've ever encountered, and they're all splattered all over the world now. But guys that I feel like they should have been making videos. They should have been the Vinny Caliutas, the Dennis Chambers, all of those guys that are heavy hitters. Those guys were in Chicago. Leonard Stroud was probably one of the guys that like I said, we all grew up in church together. So we were frequent with each other. My dad was a pastor. We were frequent with each other, they would come to my church and we would go to their church, or so I'd have to sit down, where I was at 15, 14, whatever age I was, and sit and watch them, do what they do. And it's just so many that I watched. Keith Howard was another one.
Okay.
Names that you probably will never, ever hear of, Leonard Stroud is another, like I said, he was one. Jimmy, his last name is YL. Man, they were spectacular drummers. Spectacular. And it just was like, wow, that's what I want to be doing. That's exactly how I want to play right there. Again, Malcolm Banks Sr. Was another drummer. The first drummer that I actually seen in church that was playing traditional grip. And he was fast, and playing fast, and shout. If you ever run across shout music or praise break music, that's pretty up there. And he was playing traditional grip.
Wow.
And playing that stuff, and I'm like, good God, how are you doing that? And so so many. I mean, of course, I can go to the Dennis Chambers. Dave Weckl was the first drummer that I saw on video actually break down what I was doing.
Okay.
I didn't know. Of course, I mean, like I said, 15 years old, I'm doing all this stuff that all these other drummers were doing, but he actually broke it down to a science that I was like, I'm doing that already.
Wow.
Like, and how to build a solo, I think that was Back to Basics and the Next Step were the 2 videos that my parents bought me. And so that was, Dave Weckl will always, and he's like a friend of mine now. So that's like, I remember.
Oh, wow.
I remember when I first saw him, I think it was at a NAMM show. And I was like almost in tears, man, because it was just like, and I wanted to be around him though. Like other drummers were kind of like messing with me because I was just like, dude, all I wanted to be around. He's like my hero, so like all I wanted to do was be around him. I was like following him to every booth, like, dude, I can't believe I'm like here with Dave Weber. And another person was Vinny Caliuta. Same NAMM show. It was the same NAMM show, and which is a really good friend too. I was in the bathroom. I was using the bathroom, and I looked down and I looked over, and I'm like, "Oh my God, why were you using a urinal?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, oh my God, it's Vinny Caliuta." Like I'm trying not to stare at him, you know, because I'm just like I'm freaking out, man. I'm totally freaking out inside, and I'm like, "Oh my God," you know. And so finally, we washing our hands. I was like, "Man, I'm so sorry to bother you right now, but I'm just gonna let you know that you know you are a huge blessing to me." He was like, "Well, let me finish washing my hands, man. We shake hands, and you know, who you are and whatever." So it was really cool. You know, they're really good guys, and I've like messaged Dave one time, and like I'm in St. Louis, man. Where's the spot? You know, and he just texted me back and was like, "Man, this is the spot. This is where you need to go." And so it was really cool. Those guys are really dope to like talk to and get some type of mentorship. And I remember him. I was in Turkey, years 2009, and I sent him a text message because he was going to be playing like a month later after I had left. And I sent him a message, and he was like, "Man, what food do I eat? What you know?" And just really down to earth guys that you know you can just actually talk to about you know food and you know things like that. So that's kind of Omar Akeem. I'm sorry, I was about to leave out Omar.
Wow.
He was the first guy that I saw do that in concert, like in front of a mega artist. You know, all these. Vinny was, you know, he did what he did with Zappa, and but that was like instrumental music.
Right.
I'm talking about like a major artist, Sting.
Oh, Sting. Okay.
Bring On the Night was the first video I saw that a drummer did what he did on a major tour. Like I'm like, he gave him the space to do that. it Bring On the Night probably changed my makeup as a drummer, as we're able to do that, you know.
Okay.
And not just be the timekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
We're the timekeepers, but we're able to stretch out and kind of be the artists that we are. And Omar showed me that. And like I said, these guys now that I looked up to as teenagers are now like, that's Uncle Omar. You know, I
Wow.
like sit here, you know, like call him up and just be like, "What's up, man?" And "What's up, Unc? You good?" You know. So it's really cool, man. It's actually really cool.
Well, that'd be amazing. Those are three legends in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Omar, I always loved his playing, but where I really first learned a lot about him is, have you ever heard of the MEA internal mic systems?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he released a CD as a promotional thing. Dude, his playing on that was killer. It was great hearing him play isolated, specifically just patterns. That's where I really realized his ability.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you that if you want to like Bring On the Night, that's probably the best Sting Well, I mean Sting's, you know, Sting. I think that the band with Vinny and Jeremy and those guys. I can't think of the keyboard player. It wasn't Kenny Kirkland, but it was somebody else.
They're secondary instrumentalists anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was a killer band. But that band, he had Munch from Chicago, bass player, and he had Bradford Marcellus on sax and Kenny Kirkland. That was a unbelievable band, man. And I
Wow.
like that. I still watch that video to this day. Like, um, so you know, those are like my main guys that I can't talk about Kahari enough,
Okay.
Kahari Parker enough. That um, man, he was just such a gift to me. You know, as far as I mean, he was 2 years older than me, so it was a very uh, a, a kinship between us, and we all people always say we sound so much alike, and it's like I don't know that dude. There was something special about that guy. So, but I mean, we came up together where, yeah, absolutely. Some people say, yeah, we all sound alike, but there's just something special about that guy. So, anyway,
Fantastic. And then today, would you say they're kind of carrying over to your influences today as well, or are there any other drummers that are out today that inspire you as well? Again, I mean, just for today, because I know our interests in drummers continually change, but like as of today.
I really now I don't. I listen to a lot of records now more than I listen to drummers. I couldn't. I think the last, um, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't tell you like what drummer is on this record
Okay.
anymore. I listen to more music than I do anything as far as you know in the recording process and in the producing process and the arranging process and the writing process. I don't
Mm.
really listen to drummers too much anymore. If I do watch a drummer like on Instagram, I'm like, holy smoke, that was really cool. But I won't, like dive into a drummer and you know um, be influenced by that. More or less, I'm influenced by the music now. I do listen to if I do have to do like a whole session. I do. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was talking to another drummer. Um, I listen to Michael Bland as far as like sessions wise. He is like a meter. Like
Mm.
he's got an unbelievable meter, and like he's very, very, very much so tasteful, and it makes sense in the
Mm.
studio. And so I try to watch and listen for that, and try to emulate that in the recording process, and trying to make things make sense, and try to be as musical as I can. And I think Michael has done a tremendous job of doing that, in the studio especially. Um, I always listen to, and he was on a interview yesterday, and he was mentioning the Johnnie Lang kind of only gospel record that he put out and that he had to record. That's the go-to for me. He played some unbelievable things on that record, and I try to emulate on every record that I played. That, and I listen to that record every time um, um, every time I have to record.
Do you know the
In the long process of the record. If I have to record 8 or 9 tracks, 1 or 2 tracks, or
name?
one track, I kind of do my thing and ask them what I need to do. But as far as the long process of a record or the 9, 10 songs that I need to do, I
Hmm.
listen to that record kind of to get some inspiration going.
Oh, what's the name of that record? Do you know?
I believe it's Johnnie Lang. Shoot. Um,
Well, no worries. I'll
Turnaround.
get a what
Turnaround.
turnaround. Okay.
Yeah, Johnnie Lang Turnaround. Yeah,
So
that was a great record. One of
I
my
had no idea that Michael played with him.
I think he just did the sessions.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he'd ever like toured with him. Billy and Barry. I know Billy and Barry are the only drummers that I know that have toured with Johnny.
Okay.
But Michael always did the records. So
That's fantastic. One more question before we take another break to watch another awesome solo. When you were in Chicago, there were some really well-renowned drum shops. What drum shops would you visit in Chicago?
Midwest Percussion is my favorite. Like Midwest Percussion.
The They're still there, aren't they?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Midwest Percussion is probably the only drum shop that I went to. Midwest Percussion. There's one more that I'm trying to think of.
Bill Crowden's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That was those are the only two, but Midwest Percussion was the only one that I like. Literally, I frequent with all the time.
Okay. Well, fantastic. When we come back, we'll talk more about gear and what you're up to now. So here's another solo.
Absolutely.
Check it out.
In the 1980s, Eccentric Systems developed a cam for bass drum pedals, becoming the standard design for many of today's pedals, including the popular GW9000 series of pedals. The Quick Torque Cam is an aftermarket add-on that can be installed on just about any pedal without any permanent modification. Its unique adjustable design maximizes the efficiency of any force you apply to the pedal, returning the beater 30% faster while providing more impact. This is a cost-effective way to breathe new life into your existing pedals. Be eccentric. Visit eccentricsystems.com to get yours today. Attention! This weekend, September 20th at 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., Minnesota's own David Stanek will be the guest drummer on Rich Stitzel's Drum Mantra Master Series. David has been selected for many of his accomplishments. David served on the faculty of McNally Smith College of Music for 27 years and has guest taught at Berklee College of Music. He serves on the Percussive Art Society Drum Set Committee, is the drum set editor for the PAS Percussive Notes magazine, and is a member of the Modern Drummer, Remo, and Vic Firth educational teams. David authored Mastering the Tables of Time, the #1 education book voted in the 2009 Modern Drummer Reader Poll. He co-authored the 2-in-1 Drummer, 2014 Modern Drummer and Drum Magazine education book nominee, and was drumming history and analysis consultant for Jim Birkensted's book, The Beatle Who Vanished, The Unsolved Mystery of Jimmy Nicole, currently being made into a major motion picture. This master class is only $15, a steal for a master class with an educator like David. His many accomplishments far exceed what I've mentioned. As you know, many of his students have gone on to be some of the most prominent drummers in the world. So the only things you need for the master class are a computer, headphones, a drum pad, a pair of sticks, a drum throne, and an optional bass drum pedal. So make sure to be there this weekend, September 20th at 11:30 a.m. and sign up now.
Welcome back. Fantastic solo. So where was that taken? Where did you do that?
Was in I think Holland. I think somewhere in Holland, the Netherlands.
Wow.
So yeah, man, it was really cool. Amersfoort. Yeah, that's hot. That's hot. We frequent there with Bernard pretty much, man. We go there every year, so I love that spot. Love that place.
Well, we didn't talk about some of your other styles, reggae and Afro-Cuban, but we got to see a little bit of that there with the stick bundles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about your Afro-Cuban interests?
So I toured a few years back. I think it was 2012, 2013, 2012 to 2014 with a guy named Berris Hammond. And basically, he's a reggae artist, one of the biggest reggae artists that's out there right now. There were so many styles that I had taken out of reggae that I didn't know that were a part of Western Africa, you know. And so, and him being a drummer himself, he started just opening up my ears to different patterns and different rhythms and different Njuku styles, where your kick drum is the heartbeat, and then everything else is happening around that heartbeat of a kick drum. And so he really opened up piqued my interest, you know. He started naming out stuff that Njuku was one of them. I was like, what? Never heard of anything such. Teach me this one drop, you know. And like I said, he just opened up my drum set changed.
Okay.
Where I was used to using, you know, we're gonna talk about gear, but you know, I think I was like 2012, 2000. You know, I started using bongos in there. I started using a timbali. I had a timbali with that, and on that kit, my drum set totally changed. And even coming back, I guess people started to notice that there's something happening with me as far as like the level of playing. and I got hired by Nachito Herrera, that in the city. So
Okay.
he's more of a Afro-Cuban, Latin, samba, tango, just a bunch of styles that incorporate the Afro-Cuban lifestyle, and so that was really, really, where I kind of learned it. I've never had it before, so it's just something that I kind of just picked up along the way, touring. So
That's fantastic. So let's talk about gear. We're kind of coming up on an hour. Well, actually over an hour, but we got to
yeah,
talk
for
a little
sure,
bit more. I got to hear about gear.
for sure,
Uh,
absolutely.
what are you playing for gear?
Well, so as far as symbols wise, let's start with sticks and heads. I mean, I've been with Promark, with Diodario,
Mm-hmm.
Promark and Evans. I've been with them for 18 since I was 19. I got
Oh
signed.
wow!
So Promark definitely since I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
I left Evans, and then started using Aquarian, and something just brought me back to Evans, and I was just like, I'm never leaving you guys again. Thank you for having me back. And I've been with them for forever now. So Promark has Diodario's been with just a staple in my life. For
What size sticks? What size sticks are you using?
707. So actually the Simon.
Oh.
So I have my own, but it's actually the 707 Simon Phillips. So it's the same stick, as far as I love the taper on it. It gives me everything that I need. That big ball is is the thing that I love with stick definition, as far as like on the ride and things like that. And,
Do you have a stick handy by any chance?
huh?
Do you have a stick handy?
I did. Where'd it go? Yeah, here it goes. Wait, that's not it. Yeah, that's.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
No, it's good. I'm trying to get one that's not all tore up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Nope, that's not it either. Okay, here we go. So this here is everything. I love this part here, and it's it's elongated, and the 16 16 and 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little longer, and but this right here is my saving grace right here, because it gives me, especially playing swing ride and shuffle, what I have to play with Bernard. He wants it to be heavy, as far as when he's soloing, he wants it to be heavy, that ride to be really, really heavy. So that it gives me everything that I need as far as that's concerned. So and plus, I lean back on that snare drum, and so I need something long to give me that comfort, and plus it's heavy on the front end. So being when I started I don't want to get into that, but when I started lifting weights, my sticks changed.
Oh,
So
really?
I needed something else heavier, and so because the sticks I was using, I think I was using Promark like 5 here. They're here. They're here. I was using lightweight 5/8.
Okay.
Just going through them. I'm just going completely through them, and so this one gave me just everything that I needed. So that's what I'm using for sticks and heads. I'm working. So I was with Peisty for I might start a fight on here but I was with Peisty for 10 years almost. My ears are changing. And they weren't making a symbol. If anybody knows Peisty, they're very high pitched. They're not. They open up, but they don't close very quickly. And with you know, with my ears changing, that started to bother me a little bit.
Okay.
Love Paiste because I think those are the most consistent cymbals that I ever played. Where if I break something, like, I mean, I still have a case of Paistes around here somewhere. But if I break a cymbal, if I send it back, it's almost like they just recrafted the cymbal and literally it just came back the same way it was. You know, as I. Oh, sorry about that, guys. So I've been I got with so long story short, my friend passed away, and he was a Sabian guy, and so he his wife blessed me with a drum set and some cymbals just to just to kind of keep his memory alive in my life, so I had not thought about using Sabian, but now I have. And so I called the guys over at Sabian, and now it's like we're working out a deal that we're actually going to be endorsing Sabian in the next.
Oh, congratulations!
Months. Absolutely, thanks so much. So
fantastic.
And like I said, it was a blessing in disguise from my friend's wife. She just gave me a crap load of Sabians and stuff that I wasn't familiar with, but it just, like I said, with my ears changing to where I need something that opens but closes very quickly. Sabians have been doing that. All their cymbals, especially the axes and the hand hammer, the HHS series. They're really like, they open up perfect and they close up just the same. So hats off to Sabian for helping me get to where I need to get to. As far as drums goes, I'm not really, I'm still using Tama, but I'm not by any stretch, like I'm not endorsed by Tama or anything like that. As long as drums sound good to me, that's kind of how I am. I'm not a guy that, you put an Evans head on it, it's gonna sound good. I don't care if it's a SPS or one of them little baby drum sets or whatever. You put an Evans head on it, it's gonna sound good to me. It's gonna sound all right to me. But so I'm just kind of like fishing through drums. Whatever's on the rider, that's kind of where I go. I think what I have in Europe, I have 2 drum kits in Europe. A Yamaha Absolute, and then a Yamaha Beach Custom. So that's kind of what I'm using in Europe. As far as the rider is concerned, like I said, it's Tama, as far as that's concerned. So I'm gonna have to change up the rider to Sabian, So that was cool.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, just one quick question about heads. Just what are you using for your bass drum and your snare primarily?
So like my main snare will always be either a HD dry, ST dry. Just because I don't like moon gels on my snare drum. As far as my main snare, as far as any other snare, I mean, I use a ballad snare, and I'll use either a heavyweight or a it could be G2, but I will I'll probably moon gel those as far as that's concerned. And then kick drum, I go between the EMAD, a EQ3 or EQ4. Where, it's pretty I don't really, especially when I'm out on the road, I don't really use anything in my kick drum. So, so I need something pretty, pretty thick and pretty, which the HD, I think the EQ4 is double ply. So it goes pretty short, and, yeah, so, I'm up in the air. EMADs primarily. I think the kits that I have in here now, I think both of them have EMADs on them. Yeah, they do. There are EMADs on there. So.
Okay, well, believe it or not, we're already coming up on like almost an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, man.
And
I like
I don't want to keep it. Well, I love it too, but I appreciate your time. One quick question
absolutely.
I wanted to ask is, can you talk a little bit about 2020, what you've been doing for recording, and then what you want to potentially what you might be doing for touring coming up?
So, as far as we're pretty much booked as far as 2021 is concerned, and that's
touring with whom?
Bernard Allison.
Okay.
Bernard, I've been with Bernard for 20 some years, and about I've been with him for 14 years, 15 years. And so it's just, now we're coming upon, we're usually at about this time we're gone.
Okay.
So we leave. We'll do the summers, and primarily we're a European-based band, and so we're usually in Europe around January, which we did January. We actually got caught. We didn't do the last week of touring because we were, going to get caught up in the, shutting down of the borders and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Overseas, so we had to end the tour a week early, a week and a half earlier, or something like that.
Okay.
So came back. And we were supposed to leave again in April, but again, that shut, because it shut down, the pandemic, they didn't allow us to do anything. Summer was gone. October, it was kind of up in the air, but then still with the pandemic and everything is going on. So 2021, we're supposedly supposed to leave in February. I believe that will happen, just because of everything that's open over in Europe now, unless the borders do not open up again. But everything pretty much, when I talk to friends back, my drum tech is in Europe, and he's already saying, that pretty much things are open. We usually do Germany and Switzerland and Holland and at the front part of the year. So we'll see what happens. We didn't get to tour. We just did a live record, and we only toured one. We only had one tour, so we have to recoup on that, go back around, and do everything else that we didn't do last year. So, this year. So, so hopefully that'll happen. As far as everything around here, I mean, I'm recording. I did a track with an artist. Her name is Sinebo C. She's from Sweden. I've done some tracks for her, and then I've done some other tracks. I'm recording a record.
My own
record. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, tell me about that.
So my record is going to be a conglomerate of just everything that I'm doing: rock, funk, punk, jazz, reggae, R&B, So we just finished up mixing one song. I got to lay, not me, but I have to have a guitar player lay guitar on the record. Craig Clark, he's a local artist in town. He's done some stuff on the record. Eric Gales have done some things on the record. My brother is an unbelievable producer in Atlanta.
Okay.
And
has he worked with anybody we might know?
Huh?
Has he worked with anybody we might know?
Oh yes. My brother's worked with bunch of artists. He's worked with a bunch of rap artists. He's worked with Aaliyah. I start going down the line because this is a long list. He's just produced a lot of records, a lot of R&B records.
Okay.
He's got a song on a couple of movies and things like that. So he's
Wow.
done well. He's done really
Very
well.
cool.
So finally, we're like, bro, we got to do a record together, and so we're doing that together now. So it's going to be called the Dawson Brothers record. Well, not the Dawson Brothers record, but it's the Dawson Brothers. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of putting our finishing touches on it and things like that. Eric Gales laid a massive solo on one of the songs. If anybody knows Eric Gales, he's one of the best guitar players in the world and one of my best friends. And he's a gift to the blues and the rock world. He's just unbelievable. I've been in touch with Gary Clark Jr. Okay. And so with his management team, I think he's going to be, I'm praying that he's going to actually do a track on my record for me. Awesome. Kathleen Johnson is another person that's in town. She's a local artist, celebrity in town, and she's actually going to be on the record also. So we're kind of in the stages of building tracks and cutting the tracks and stuff like that. We got 4 done. We got at least 5 more to go.
And so when do you think they'll be out?
At least by January. We're pushing for January. We're pushing for when I have to go on tour. To have it available for when I have to go to Europe. I'm hoping to have it distributed through Roof Records in Europe and go from there and cross our fingers to see if we can get the biting of actually touring the record, because there's so many, with having so many artists on the record, mm-hmm. It's hard to when are you going to tour this record, and people want to see the record and see it live. And so, not only do they want to hear it, but they want to see it. So we're trying to figure out a way to actually, stream and do live stream and cut the record video wise and let people see the record, see the process of the record and put that out there also. So
that's really clever. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Engaging people.
Yeah, absolutely. I videoed when Craig Clark was here. I've been getting into the videoing and the creativity of editing video and things like that. So trying to, with the pandemic, we've had to be so many people, I can't just be the drummer anymore. I got to be the videographer. I got to be the editor. I got to be the mixer. I got to be the engineer now. And which is it's great. It's great. With producing, you want to learn, I'm not used to, going in the studio and actually being the engineer. I'm actually telling the engineer what to do. But now during the pandemic, I've learned how to be the engineer, and actually having somebody come in and cut vocals and me being the engineer, so it's really cool to understand the level of what you need to be at to stay busy.
Well, I'm just happy you're staying busy. Again, we're almost an hour and a half into this, and I appreciate every moment. I know a lot of people want to, it's hard to keep people for a long period of time, but I'm hoping I can have you on again. I'd love to talk more.
Whenever you hit me, man, I would love to do it again. This has just been a blessing for me. Absolutely, man.
Well, thank you. It was so wonderful learning more about you and getting a chance to talk to you, seeing your fantastic drum solos.
Oh man,
we didn't even talk about your crossovers, dude. So we got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely, man.
We have a fantastic evening. Good luck with your recording. I really hope you tour.
Absolutely.
And looking for more coming from you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it, Raj. Definitely.
You take care.
All right.
Bye.
One of our fellow Minnesota drummers needs our help. Eric Ballard's daughter, Emery, has been diagnosed with leukemia. Emery was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia on August 17th of this year. Emery's current treatment plan consists of her receiving aggressive chemotherapy and then a bone marrow transplant. Eric and his family ask that we follow Emery's progress on their designated Facebook page. A link to the Facebook page will be in the show notes of this episode, and they ask that we keep Emery in our prayers that God will heal their daughter. And this is a point where we can help. Any size donation that we can make will help with monthly expenses and medical bills. I ask you to consider any size donation, even a small amount will help. In these times, I know money's tight. Any size donation is valuable. This is crowdfunding at its best. A link to where you can donate will be on the show notes of this episode. Eric Ballard is a prominent drummer in the Minnesota drumming scene. Please consider donating today. Opening beats provided by Alec Tackman. You too can own this fantastic multi-volume library of live drum loops and samples. Whether you're a drummer looking for new ideas or you know a songwriter looking for a drum loop library, this is the library you're looking for. Support a local musician and drummer. Go to Alec Tackman's website. That is www.alectackman.com. Spelled AlecTackmann. Are you looking for a drum instructor that will help you find your own musical voice? Whether you're a beginner, advanced, or in between, the David Stanek School of Drumming offers an experienced and professional approach to help you take control of your drumming. David served on the faculty of McNally Smith College of Music for 27 years. Currently, he serves on the Percussive Arts Society Drum Set Committee and is a member of the Modern Drummer, Remo, and Vic Firth education teams. David has authored multiple books including Mastering the Tables of Time. It was voted the #1 education book in the Modern Drummer 2009 Readers Poll. Let David help you find your beat. Please visit www.davidstanekschoolofdrumming.com. David Stanek is spelled DavidStanoch, schoolofdrumming.com. Again, the David Stanek School of Drumming. You've been listening to Minnesota Drummer. Minnesota Drummer is copyright 2020, all rights reserved. Any content played or viewed during this broadcast is used with permission, is copyright of their respective owners, and is used for promotional purposes only. No part of this broadcast can be edited, reproduced, and cannot be sold. Please look us up and follow us on our various social media sites. You can follow us at minnesotadrummer.com. There you'll find our contact forum where you can give us feedback and recommend a drummer. Thank you for listening.